Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 2nd regular meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. If we would please rise for the pledge and a brief moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have roll call from my left.
Richard Lutz.
Mike Dolan.
John Grant.
Carl S. Moore.
Rick Varone.
Tom Nickel.
Tom Panzella.
Jim Quish.
And I'm Chairman Scott Marlowe. First item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing for 18 Twin Oaks Terrace, Zone R-O, petition of Ray Macaluso for special exception approval to allow expansion of employee parking at Chevrolet of Milford on map 25, block 207, parcel 44, of which Snafford Realty LLC is the owner. Mr. Macaluso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Raymond A. Macaluso. I'm the owner of Westcott and Mapes Incorporated, consulting engineers and surveyors located at 142 Temple Street in New Haven, and I'm here on behalf of Sanford Realty, owners of Chevrolet of Milford, for the parcel of 18 Twin Oaks. And I was here before you last month for a zone change for this particular parcel to bring it back into the CDD zone as it was once before, and the petition was denied. Tonight I come before you because it is in a residential office zone, and what we're proposing, because it's office use, we would like to have employee parking only on the property. We will not have an entrance off of Twin Oaks. Everything will be confined off the Boston Post Road, and in your plans you could see that this particular parcel is at the end of the cul-de-sac. This other parcel next to it is empty. It's an empty lot. And what we're doing, we're proposing to put in, continue the buffer as we are around Twin Oaks with the arborvitaes, the berm, and we're also adding a 6-foot high vinyl fence that goes along the whole perimeter of the property. The setback is 10 feet in the RO zone. We are going 20 feet with a buffer. So this whole green area is going to be 20 feet off the property line. We were going to have arborvitaes, the fence that goes all the way around. Now I know that a lot of the residents from Sagamore came out and complained about lights and this and everything else. Well, there are no lights on this particular parcel. Everything is on the Chevrolet Milford parcel on the CDD. This is only going to use for employee parking for the building that's over here. It's designated as such with signs. No other reason to have anybody else park there. The city engineer reviewed it, and what we're doing is we're adding more green space than it was before. And if you look from the property line where the open space is, you go to the end of this and you have 76 feet. You go from that tip all the way back, which is not their property, it's another 51 feet. So you have 120 some odd feet of buffer between a resident on Sagamore with open space, and they're not even going to see a parked car because you're going to have the arborvitaes, the fence, everything. If you go out there and look, this back area is horrendous with debris, not on Chevrolet Milford's property, but the other properties, and even the properties on Sagamore with garbage, debris, and everything else. So this is going to only add to the buffer for the people that are complaining about Chevrolet Milford, which I cannot understand. You have 120 some odd feet of site and buffer, which will not interfere with their enjoyment of living or a site or anything else, especially when you could see what we're doing is we're putting all the way around, again, arborvitaes and a 6-foot-high fence, which if we went in there for an RO zone, we could build a building, have residential office, parking, and a 10-foot buffer, and not have any really screening. So what my clients want to do, they again would like to keep the property. They don't want to use it for any other means. They'd like to just put employee parking there and continue that. So there's 9 parking spaces that'll be going on there. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Macaluso. Mr. Solkis.
I have no comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from the board? Okay, seeing none. Oh, yes, Mr. Barone.
The arborvitae, how mature are the plantings going to be when you put them in?
Right now, the arborvitaes are going to be 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet, just like the rest of the cul-de-sac. Remember, the cul-de-sac and all Twin Oaks is all with arborvitaes on a berm. So you'll have the fence, but you also have 6-foot-high arborvitaes. They grow one foot a year.
Also, I'm a little bit confused about the 120-foot buffer that you were talking about. Can you, I'm not seeing that in my head. I know the property pretty well, so I just don't see that as you're explaining it.
Sure, let me explain it. Right here you have, this is the property, the pointed area. Okay, this is open space over here. That's all open space. So from the actual end of the buffer, the green, this is asphalt over here. You have all the way down to here. This is their property line. This about 76 feet, and then from here down here, it's 51 feet, which is not their property. So again, if you stand in the backyard at the very tip and you look to the asphalt, it's 120 some odd feet away. So this is all going to be filled in on the perimeter with arborvitaes. So the green area, again, to get to the asphalt, to see a parked car, it's 120 some odd feet. Does that explain it, sir? Yes. Thank you.
Are there other questions from the board?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
From what I can see on the plan, there'll just be 9 parking spaces on this plot?
9 parking spaces.
9 parking spaces.
And they're all employee, and you'll see that there's going to be signs designated employee parking only.
Right. And are there going to be certain hours that this employee parking lot is used?
Well, it's open for the business. They open at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. They close 7, 8 o'clock at night.
7 days a week, right?
I think Sunday they're not open all day. I believe it's a shorter period. But it's normal business hours, and that's all that's going to park there is the employees.
Right.
And again, it's only one entrance off of the Boston Post Road. No entrances off of Twin Oaks. No circulation, no other entrance.
Thank you. Is there other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Macaluso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and so I would invite anyone who would like to speak in favor of this to approach the podium, state your name and address, and if you could address all your comments to the board and keep them to about 3 minutes. So anyone who is in favor of this proposal? Okay, seeing none, I would invite anyone who is against this proposal to again approach the podium, address your comments to the board, and if you would keep your comments to about 3 minutes, and just state your name and address, please. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Phyllis Gallo. I live at 25 Sycamore Drive, and I'm right behind where this proposed car parking lot that they want to have is going. I kind of wrote my notes. I'm not shocked at all to be here again tonight. It's not even 1 month since they were denied the zone change, that they're back again, trying to come back further into our backyards. We're concerned. I mean, I've been dealing with the dealership since 1990s, trying to stop them from coming back further and further. They've gotten quite a few special permits done already to that piece of property. He had mentioned that the back lot is 10 feet now, and they wanted to expand it to 20. Originally, they put in a special permit here. It was 29 feet, and they moved it up to 10 to do whatever they wanted to do. Now they want to give us 20 feet. They're playing with whatever they want. That's what they're looking at. Let's see. So like I said, I've been dealing with them, trying to come back to our space since the 1990. In March of this year, I spent weeks listening and talking to all my neighbors. They don't want the dealership to come back any further. I gave a petition to the board last time I was here in March when we were up for the zone change, and I had 110 people sign it. They were all against the encroachment of the dealership coming back further. So now we have this special exception that they're asking. To me, it's just another way the dealership is trying to come back further. There's just no reason for it. I just don't understand why they just can't stop. They have a lot of property over there. They have parking lots all over the place. I'm sure they could find in the back row for their employees. The bottom line is the dealership wants lot 18 on Twin Oaks for commercial use. It's residential office. I have no problem with them putting an office there or a house there. But why should they be allowed, being a commercial business, to use residential land? I bought my house, a piece of residential property, just like they bought that residential property. If I asked you to give me a special permit to put a parking lot in my front yard and my backyard, I'm sure I'd be turned down. So I don't understand why, they think they could get it. I don't know. I think if a parking lot goes there, and it doesn't matter to me if it's for employees or whoever, that has no bearing on me. If they put signs, let them put signs all over. It's going to open up that field. The lighting is horrendous already. If there was a building there, that might block some of the lighting. I don't know. But not only the lighting, where that piece of lot is, it comes a little bit further back than our open space, where the open space ends. I am not in favor of this at all. And it's a shame that they just can't find something else that conforms to the regulations that Milford has, what residential property should be. It's zoned residential. It should stay that way. And also, I'd just like to add, I went over to the cul-de-sac that they made, and they've already taken out the driveway for lot 18. It's all curbed. Their number 20, the parcel next to it, has a driveway going in there. They've already put, you know, like, okay, you know, we don't care if this is residential or not. And also, I listened to the minutes from the meeting after we left last month about the plant site, and there were 5 pine trees that were like a buffer for that lot that they're going to put a house on. And it was asked by the board if they were going to keep them there, and they said yes, the buffer, those trees, pine trees would stay there. They're down. They took them down. So they just don't listen to anything. I mean, I could go back where they've had cease and desist orders and everything on this piece of property. And that's just how I feel. I don't think we should let them have anything special. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this proposal? Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Michelle Zulowski. I'm the record owner of 31 Sycamore Road. I oppose the application tonight of Attorney Ray Macaluso. I am suspicious of the future use of that piece of land. They are using it for parking as of today, but like one gentleman noted, the after hours can lead to other patrons using that lot, and it will be very close to my property, so I do have a safety concern there. He does mention there is no lighting as of now, but again, that could change in the future should their plan require it as they're building. And I think I stand here in principle. They were denied the zone change for commercial use last month, less than 30 days ago, and I feel that he's here to redirect the denial of that application in order to do something else that they were told, unfortunately, they shouldn't be able to do. They bought a residential piece of land, and it's an investment gone bad, and that should be what it remains as. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against this proposal? Good evening.
Hi, my name is Karen Seslick, and I live at 22 Sycamore Road. I'm basically here to support the Gallows. I understand how they feel, having it be so close to their property, and as far as it being a nuisance, and as far as if they had to sell their house. You know, we went through this a couple of years back through Kmart when we were protesting the lighting there, and they put buffers there. You could still see those bright lights if you look down the end of my street. So, and they do have a large amount of land. I don't understand why they would need this little lot for parking. I can't imagine why they can't find space. If you see, I drove there today to look to see how they did the turnaround and everything. It's enormous. It's enormous. But anyway, that's basically my opinion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against this proposal? Good evening.
Good evening. Kathleen Kraftmiller, 37 Sycamore Road. I just can't believe I'm here again. We started 1989, they bought this piece of property. And we've been at public hearings and public hearings, and it took a lot of effort. I have the map. We've lost so much residential property there to this business. You talk about the open lot. That came with a lot of hard work. But they also, yes, there's an open lot, open space there. But part of that lot was originally residential. Now they have it as part of the dealership. The lighting is incredible. The gentleman mentioned the empty lot. I spoke to the builder. There is supposed to be, in the next couple of months, a raised ranch built there. Now they've already cut trees down that they said they weren't, which would be somewhat of a buffer, But this is a new piece of property going on Twin Oaks Terrace, right next to this lot that they're asking a special exception for. I don't understand. In the past, sometimes special exceptions went to the ZBA. And if it had gone to the ZBA, it could not be granted because it's a self-imposed hardship. They bought a residential piece of property, and now they want to use it for their business. I've lived there for many years, and now the post road is in my backyard. I never saw, now I'm looking forward to the house being built because that is a block. And I agree with Phyllis Gallo. We'd rather see a building on 18 Terrace. If it's an office building, fine. That's what it's zoned for. If it's another house, Milford could use another small house. And I really would ask this board to respect the residential property owners in Milford. The businesses gets lots of support because they have a lot of money. We come here as individuals because we care about Milford or we still wouldn't be living here. So I think, I don't understand this hearing tonight. It was denied last month. It's kind of a roundabout way. And now that they put the cul-de-sac in and they haven't even put a driveway into 18 Twin Oaks, what does that say? They already assume that they're going to have this. And they promise the world. And they spend a lot of money on their property, which is fine. But they really do not respect and have not over the years the residential property owners. And it's a nice neighborhood. I've enjoyed living there. So I just ask respectfully that you deny this request and keep it as a residential office property. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments from people who would like to speak against this proposal? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kim Gravel, 22 Meadows End Road. I'm here to support Phyllis, the Gallows. I live diagonally across the street from the Meadows End Road driveway for the dealership. There are plenty of empty parking spaces in that lot. I could see it from my front door. Have your employees park there. I don't see what the problem is. I'm totally against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against this proposal? Seeing none, Mr. Macaluso, you have an opportunity to respond to any of the comments that were made by the people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My clients have a right to come back at any time. We denied it. The car wash was going to be, was going to be for the service only, not a public. There's a lot of misunderstanding. Most of the residents that are not in favor of this, again, are on Sycamore. Once this is all completed, with all the arborvitaes, the cul-de-sac, the residents on Twin Oaks are going to have a major buffer between them and the post road. That is why we did this. The cul-de-sac, yes, is under construction. Yes, the contractor put in the curb. It's all temporary. It's not finalized. It's not, utility poles still have to be moved. A lot of work still has to be done. What they're seeing is construction every day. As far as the, again, the buffer, it's 120 some odd feet away from their Sagamore, the property. We're not encroaching on their property. That property line, again, is on Twin Oaks. If we were the next door, 20, yes, that's different. That's right up against their property, but against the young lady's property. And for clarification, I am not an attorney. Attorney Lynch got a kick out of it and wanted to know what law school I went to. I own an engineering firm. And that's what I do for a living for the last 45 years. But putting that aside, I think, again, my clients have a right to do what they want on a residential office building lot. Yes, they don't want to put a building up. They don't want to put an office up. They could put an office up that's part of the Chevrolet of Milford. All they want to do is they want to put the buffer in and put 9 parking spaces. And that's going to be the way it is for a long time. They have no intention of putting lights up. They have no intention of buying other properties. All they want to do was they want to, again, expand their parking in that area. They own it. It's their land. This is, again, a special exception based on your regulations because it's a residential office, and all we're doing is we're looking to park the cars there in lieu of putting a building. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone who commented before has the opportunity to, again, speak to any of the comments Mr. Macaluso made. So anyone who did speak can address comments.
Phyllis Gallo, 25 Sycamore Drive. I don't think there was a misunderstanding about the car wash. We didn't care if it was for their service department or all of Milford. We didn't want a car wash back there. I don't see how he could say that they could do whatever they want. They own the property. Yeah, they can do what they want, but they should conform to the zoning that was set for that piece of property. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't touch our property, like Michelle's yard it does touch. It's still in that residential area that we would like to keep. And if that's cleared out and made a parking lot, like I said before, it just opens it way too much up. I have no objection for them putting an office or a house there would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address comments that were made by Mr. Macaluso? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Macaluso, you still have last opportunity here.
Thank you. Again, for clarification, at the last meeting, I believe there were some people that thought it was going to be a public car wash, so that's what I meant by clarification. When I said my clients have a right, it's within the regulations. Residential office. Not saying they could do anything they want. Again, it's within the regulations. And the regulations do stipulate that it's a special exception because it's for employees parking. It's a residential office zone. Again, we do not touch any of the property on Sycamore. I don't know why they keep thinking we touch it. If they come up and they look at the map or they look at the plans, we do not touch their property. Number 20 is the one that touches the property all the way back, the empty lot right now. That's for clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, before we close the public hearing, I'd like to give the board an opportunity to ask either Mr. Macaluso or David Solkis any questions. Is there any questions?
I got
Yes, Mr. Grant.
for Mr. Macaluso. You kind of briefly mentioned it, and I didn't, unless I missed it in the plans, I didn't see any lighting to be installed on that property. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Grant, that is absolutely correct. The only thing we're putting on that property, again, is the buffer area and the parking and the signage and the fence. No lighting at all. We're maintaining the drainage to tie in as the city engineer wants us to do. That's correct.
Is there other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing part.
Thank you.
And I would entertain a motion from the board if they would like to act on this. Mr. Grant.
I'll make a motion to approve 18 Twin Oaks Terrace development for a parking lot as presented to the board with the stipulation that no lighting is added to the property. That's basically it.
Is there a second? Mr. Nichols.
I'll second that. I would like to also put a caveat in there. That being the cars that are parked in there, they all have current Connecticut license plates, and they're removed after every shift or each day, and nothing stays in that lot beyond 24 hours.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Soltis.
I don't know that the board can stipulate the type of license plate that a car has there. If they have an employee who's moved here from out of state, and it's, say, from New York, they wouldn't be able to qualify to park there.
We would still have the ability, though, to ask that there's no cars in that lot after hours, correct?
Well, you could, because based on what the applicant said, the only people who are going to park there are the employees during regular business hours.
Mr. Nichols, that's fine.
Now, that's what I insinuated. What I'm leading up to is I don't want cars that are in for repair to be arbitrarily put into that lot overnight. And regardless of what state they come from, I don't want to see them in there overnight.
Okay, Mr. Grant, do you need to amend your motion to include that?
Yes. So, as amended, I move to approve the employee parking lot at 18 Twin Oaks Terrace with the stipulations that no lights are installed on the site and that it is strictly used for employee parking during business hours and not for any overnight parking or any other type of vehicles to be stored, only employees parking.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, you're in agreement with that?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay. Is there discussion on the motion from the board?
As I read the regulations for the RO, any commercial use, whether it's an office building, whether it's any commercial use in an RO zone, has to have a site plan. It has to be reviewed by the board. My assumption is that they did this to protect the residential users there. So when we denied the change of zone, that parcel still comes under the control of the RO regulations, which would say that we have to approve anything, even if it were something in the future that was going to be a commercial use. So that I'm torn on this one. I'll be honest with you, I'm torn on this one, okay? I do agree with the fact that, that it is a change of zone, but I think it might be one of the least intrusive uses that a car lot could be, next to a residential zone, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there other comments? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Yes, I'm also, like Mr. Lutz, torn between this, but my only question is the lighting. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to accept lighting in that position or that this area, especially for the safety of those employees who might be leaving work late at night, and if it's too dark, is it going to be fall upon this board if something happens to them? If something happens to them, but there's no lighting or anything like that. So that's one of my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there other questions?
I got a comment, and Mr. Eckler was going to back me up on this. I believe the building that is existing is in close proximity of that parking area, and it has lights on it, correct?
Yes.
So it would light up that lot?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the lighting plan does cover the lighting up to the asphalt, and there will not be any issues with life safety. We made sure of that. We're just trying to, again, keep all the lighting off that particular parcel, but the existing lights, or the proposed lights for the other site plan, does encompass the parking lot, and it will be well lit in that area, but not going into the buffer area. So we try to keep everything zero increase on that site. Does that help you, sir? Is it, if I explained it proper, there won't be any issues.
Thank you. Is there other questions? Yes.
I just have a general comment. I'm going to have to apologize to the board members and the public. I think it'd probably be best if I abstain from this vote just because I wasn't here at the March meeting, and that probably would have been good background for me. Plus, to be honest, I did not look at the plans before tonight. I don't know exactly where the dealer is in relationship to the neighbor's property, so I don't think I'm in a great position to vote. So I just want to let you guys know why.
Thank you. Is there other questions or comments? Okay, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is another public hearing, 465 Bridgeport Avenue, R-30, CDD-3, petition of Thomas Lynch, Esquire, for special permit and site plan review approval to change the use of a property from retail use to restaurant fast food use on map 24, block 207, parcel 1, of which 461 Post Road Properties LLC is the owner. Mr. Lynch.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just for the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki, and Boynton, and my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here tonight with Paul and Doug Simpson, who are seated in the front row here, along with Bill Taylor, who's the design expert from Subway World Headquarters, who has been working with Doug and Paul on this project. And we're before you tonight with an application, pretty straightforward. It's a application for site plan approval and a special permit to allow the Simpsons to relocate their existing Subway franchise that they have at 608 Bridgeport Avenue in the Kmart Plaza. They've operated that franchise for over 30 years, and now an opportunity has arisen to take space at 465 Bridgeport Avenue, just slightly up the street. It's in that plaza that's located next to the plaza with Reggione's restaurant. It's on the southerly side of Bridgeport Avenue. So the plans have been submitted to you. They've been reviewed by the departments. I know that David had done an administrative summary to distribute to you. But basically, we had submitted a statement of use when we first filed the application. The size of the two stores is basically going to be the same. The new store will be slightly larger. I had originally noted in here that the proposed space is approximately 1,220 square feet. It's a little bit closer to 1,500 square feet with the preparation area to the rear portion of the space that they're going to be renting. They're going to operate a standard style Subway fast food restaurant, and I'm going to be going into that term fast food in just a few minutes because it does have a bearing on the parking count as we've submitted to you tonight. But you know, they have corporate established hours. The hours are going to be from Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. They're going to be open a little bit later on the weekends until 11 p.m. I had submitted with Phyllis, I believe it got distributed to the members, a copy of the floor plan that's typical for the Subway stores. This particular store is going to be for lack of a better term, a new style, a little bit more upscale in terms of the decor, but the basic layout of the store will be the same. It's going to have 2 booths, some high-top tables for customers to seat. It'll have seating for a total of 14 customers, and then the traditional area where they prepare the sandwiches with the different toppings that people want in the area where the cash register is, and then the food preparation area and lavatories. The property where the store is going to be relocated to has a number of empty spaces, so this is going to take up the area in the middle as shown on the site plan. And one of the things that we had to do with this application, we had to submit a site plan, so Ron Wassmer from CCG prepared the plan submitted with the application. It shows a total of 31 parking spaces that are on site. So, you know, getting into the discussion on the parking, it takes a little bit of leapfrogging through our zoning regulations because we have certain regulations relating to a restaurant use and certain regulations calling for parking count for retail use, and then in particular under our definitions 11-20 there is a definition of what a fast food restaurant is, and you know, very briefly again just for the record to read that into the record, we have a definition under 11-20 of what a restaurant is, which is a business establishment open to the general public for the principal purpose of preparing and serving food for consumption primarily on the premises. Your typical sit-down restaurant. But then right below that we have a definition of what a fast food restaurant is. Fast food restaurants are those where most customers order and are served their food at a counter or in a motor vehicle in packages prepared to leave the premises or able to be taken to a table or counter to be consumed. So clearly there's a distinction here. I think there was some discussion with the board when you were going through the Dunkin' Donuts application a couple of months ago, a little further down Bridgeport Avenue, as to these types of establishments where people come in, quickly eat and leave, and basically do not utilize the parking that a regular restaurant would utilize, where somebody would come in, there'd be a waiter or waitress serviced, you'd be seated for a full meal, and your duration of stay on the premises would be much longer. So again, leapfrogging over to the parking regulations. Under our parking regulations for food and beverage establishments, including restaurants, the regulations call for one space for each 75 square feet of gross floor area. So that would be one space every 75 feet for a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant. I'm taking the position that there's a further definition of what kind of restaurant this particular use is, and I submit that under Section 15 of the parking regulations, other retail sales and service establishments, it calls for one space for each 250 square feet of gross floor area. So with our plans that we submitted to you, Ron did a calculation. Based upon the size of this space, we're looking to utilize 6 parking spaces out of the 31 that are provided on site. Clearly, it's a reasonable request. Clearly, it's basically 1/5 of the parking total on site, whereas if you see that there's 5 particular users shown on the plans now, that would match up using that calculation, 6 spaces for the size of this restaurant. So that's the sum and substance of our presentation to you. I know that David gave you an administrative summary. The plans were reviewed by a minimal number of city departments because of the nature of the application. The fire department reviewed it with all approvals. The health department approved it. We did submit an application to the sewer commission. A grease trap will be required as part of the, the renovation and construction of the restaurant. So my clients clearly are aware of that and are amenable to that condition. But other than that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Attorney Lynch. Mr. Solkis, you have comments?
Not taking anything away from Mr. Lynch's argument, I just need to clarify the definition of a fast food restaurant. A fast food restaurant is a restaurant where most customers order and are served their food at a counter or in a motor vehicle in packages prepared to leave the premises or able to be taken to a table counter to be consumed. That wasn't the exact wording that Mr. Lynch gave, so I thought it was important to just clarify the record and give you the actual language.
Thank you, Mr. Sulkus.
Can I ask you with a smile on my face, what did I leave out? Because I thought I was reading right from the regulation.
You left out the word restaurant, because a fast food restaurant is a type of restaurant.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Are there questions from
Stand corrected. Thank you.
Are there questions from the board? Mr. Grant.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is, what is the seating capacity? How many?
14.
I'm sorry?
14.
14?
Yep.
Okay. And then on the plan, there's an area, an alcove area, to, if you're walking in the front door, would be to your right. It's not designated for anything. I was just kind of wondering what that area would be used for. The only thing it shows is wall mural, so.
That's where the seating is going to go.
Right?
That's the area where the seating will be.
That alcove? Now, it would be, if you go from the, if you're standing facing the cashier,
right,
to your right, there's an alcove area.
I think he's referring to this.
Yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Bill Taylor, Subway Development, 75 Washington Avenue, North Haven, Connecticut. So as you go forward, maybe about 15 feet or so, and then take an immediate right and adjacent to the two restrooms, is that what you're referring to, sir?
Yeah, basically the alcove as you're walking towards the restrooms.
So the actual space itself has this jog in the wall right here. It's nothing we really added. It's just kind of conforming with the space. And we have two ADA restrooms that only take up so much room. So we're kind of left with this little area here. Really have no plans for it other than it to look just nice and pretty.
Well, my thing was, I just wanted to make sure or was hoping it was not used for seating.
No, all of our seats are just represented right on this plan here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there other questions from the board?
Yes, yes. Where will employees park?
To the rear, right?
The employees will work? Park or work? Park. They will park...
on the rear.
Yeah, in the rear of the building, right? In the rear of the building.
So that is not counted in that number of spaces that are available for customers?
The parking count on site is 31. So included in the 31 would be parking for employees, right?
Other question, Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, what else is in this mini shopping center that would require parking spaces?
I believe all the other uses that have been in there have been retail or service. There was a pawn shop. Mr. Glassman is here, who owns the building, so he could elaborate. But they've all been basically retail uses. Yeah.
Is there other questions, Mr. Grant?
Actually, I got a question for Mr. Sulkus. Can we limit the number of seating in the out in the front area?
Could you limit the seating? I think you could, because you don't necessarily have to agree with the methodology that the applicant has put out, saying that this is a a takeout restaurant.
Is there other questions from the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Attorney.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and at this time I would invite anyone that is in favor of this project, this proposal, to come forward. Please approach the podium, state your name and address, and if you could make all your comments, address all your comments to the board. Anyone in favor? Okay, seeing none, at this time I would invite anyone who is against this proposal. Again, if you would approach the podium, state your name and address, address your comments to the board. Anyone against? Okay, seeing none, I would ask if there's any further questions from the board to either Mr. Sulkus or to Attorney Lynch. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion on this proposal. Mr. Grant.
I'd make a motion to approve the build-out of the subway at 465 Bridgeport Avenue with the stipulation that the seating capacity is not more than 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, there's a motion on the table that's been seconded. All in favor? Against? Anyone against? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public hearing, item 373, Cooper Avenue, Zone R-5, petition of Christopher Field for special permit and coastal management site plan review approval to construct a single-family residence on map 26, block 458, parcel 51, of which Field and Son Builders LLC is the owner. Yes, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Thomas Lynch representing Chris Field, managing member of Field and Sons Builders, even though he's the son. And we're before you, again, straightforward approval that we're seeking here for the coastal site plan review for a new house that Chris and his dad are going to be building on this property, 73 Cooper Avenue. They purchased this property last year. It was a bank foreclosed property, completely, in disrepair. The plan is to demolish the house and build it in conformity with the elevation requirements in the AE zone. So the plans were submitted to you. They were reviewed by Steve Harris. I believe you have Steve's administrative summary form. And basically, Chris is going to be constructing roughly a 2,200 square foot house on the property, 3 bedrooms with 2 baths. There'll be 2 levels of living space. First floor will be a garage with storage area, and then on the second and third floors, there'll be living room, dining area, kitchen, and then on the second floor, 3 bedrooms with 2 baths. The plans have been put together, and the architectural plans from JMR Architectural Services, they note that all of the elevations as required in that zone will be met. And Chris is anxious to get started on this project. We'd ask that you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Lynch. Mr. Sulkus.
I have no comments at this time.
Is there questions from the board? Mr. Grant.
Questions. Zoning regulations require a mean roof height of 35 feet from the average grade. In looking over these plans, the site plan does not show any average grade. The architect's drawing shows the average grade at 4.3 feet. The builder's drawings show the average grade at 7 feet. So my first question is what is actually the grade, the average grade of the site? Second question is the first floor elevation for the garage. The site plan says that it's going to be at 5.5 feet. Building plan says it's going to be at 7 feet. The architect's drawing says it's going to be at 4.3. So in trying to calculate the mean roof height, basically the height requirement marks are not shown on, basically in conflicts with each other on the plans. The other thing is the builder plan shows a 12-inch floor joist. The architect's drawing shows a 20-inch floor joist, which would also factor into figuring out what the mean roof height is. So At this particular point in time, I'd say the drawings are incomplete, need to be redone and resubmitted.
There was a second set of plans that were submitted to the zoning office. Are you sure that you have the most recent set of plans? Why don't you go look, see what he's got. Does it say 7? What happened? Hmm? Yeah, that's the right one. What he's showing here, the architect is showing grade. Yeah, right here. Garage floor, 7, right? Huh? Is it wrong? Okay. Well, John, there was some confusion this morning as to where certain plans were, and it looks like the revised plans that show those numbers, which were prepared, never made it into the zoning office. So we'd ask that this be put over to your next meeting. I know you have a full agenda on the May 16th meeting, so...
Mr. Solkis, would that be something?
Chris confirmed that the plans were amended to show that, and Steve Harris saw the plans, and that's why he did his memo, but those plans didn't get to the board members, right?
I have 2 sets here that came in at different times. In both those sets, though, it does give, in one instance, a height, and it's on the smaller, the first sheet, the smaller of the sheets, both on the old and the new, and it looks, and we'd have to double check, that the height might actually be a little over 35 feet at the midpoint. We would have to confirm that, but you know, in the end, if you felt comfortable with this and you wanted to approve it, we would just have to make sure that when he actually comes in with his building plan, that it complies with the maximum height under our regulations.
All right, thank you. I'm not sure what the rest of the board feels as far as that goes. I would rather see myself a new set of drawings, but I'll leave that up to the board.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, again, if I could just, for whatever it's worth, and I leave it to the board to do whatever you see fit, but again, Chris has confirmed with me that the correct numbers are on the sets of plans that he has. They just never made it in. So they could be submitted for staff to review. The board could approve this subject to staff reviewing that, in fact, the grade is shown on the plans and the height is correct, or you could choose not to do that and put it over. It's
okay, thank you. Is there any input from the board as to what direction you'd like to? Yes.
I have.
I don't really see a problem with having the staff confirm compliance with the height requirement, and I would make a motion to approve with the caveat that staff does confirm the height requirement is adhered to.
Mr. Grant.
I actually have to not agree with that. We have done that in the past, where we approved a set of drawings that were had some questions to it, and the staff was to review them and make sure that the drawings were corrected. To this date, as far as I know, that did not happen. So I really would like to see a revised set of drawings that meets the requirements, that shows that they're meeting the requirements, be submitted to the board and not just to the staff to review.
And can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
There's 4 other homes in Milford that the Fields have built with the same plans. And I understand what John's saying, and I've been at meetings where pergolas have been involved and different roof lines have been involved. I remember one particular meeting maybe 3 or 4 months ago where we had a house on East Broadway and we had to pull back the plans and have them redone. I'm just submitting to you that this house is the same set of plans as the other 4, and it'll be verified on the plans that the grade is going to be computed and the height is not going to exceed 35 feet on the plans.
It might be the same set of plans, but basically there's a description in what the average grade is. So, I mean, you can build the same house at different sites, and depending on what the elevation, the average grade is for elevation,
But with all due respect, you're going to have an engineer.
It's going to be, you know, it's going to be different. The mean roof height would be different.
But it's going to be certified by an engineer. It's going to have an engineer's stamp on it. They're going to have a grade calculated, and then it can't be any more than 35 feet above that point.
Okay. You're talking about the site engineer?
Yeah.
The site drawing who is stamped
And
by
the
site,
architect.
The site surveyor who provided the site drawing, that stamped the drawing, basically has no average grade listed on his drawing, which is one of the requirements of the zoning requirements.
I understand that.
Okay. Mr. Quish, you put a motion on the floor, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Mr. Quish's motion is that, if I could, that you want to approve, you would feel comfortable approving the plans and then having staff review and certify the elevations and the building height. Is that basically?
Correct.
Okay. There's a motion there. Is there a second on that motion? Mr. Moore. Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. All in favor of that motion?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 5.
Okay.
That's what's denied.
Okay,
If
so
it's
it will be denied because it's a tie.
Okay.
So if you could make the new drawings, and we'll try to put it on the next agenda. It's a tight meeting next.
Yeah, I
week,
leave it
but-
to you to.
Yeah. All right.
Take our request in consideration. I think we'll be 5 minutes, but I leave it up
Sure.
to you and staff to.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 440 Wheelers Farm Road, Zone DO-10, petition of Gina Rivera for special exception and site plan review approval to establish a child daycare center on map 6, block 915, parcel 11C, of which Sofa Merit LLC is the owner. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Gina Rivera. I've been the owner of Once Upon a Time Development Center for the past 20 years. We've been located at 326 West Main Street in Milford, and I'm proposing to move my daycare to 440 Wheelers Farms Road. You already have the plans. You can see that we would be occupying the front right corner of the building. We would have our own entrance, so we would not be going through the lobby of the building where the rest of the tenants do go through to get to their offices, and there would be a playground adjacent to the space that we would occupy.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Mr. Solkis.
You have my report. If you have any questions about it, I can answer them.
Are there questions from the board for either Ms. Rivera or Mr. Solkis? Nichols.
Yeah, I saw on the plan where you're going to have a double door.
Yes.
You're going to take the one out and replace it.
Currently, it's a window. So the window that's currently there would be cut out and a doorway would be put in the same space.
And I also noticed that there is a lot of reserved parking area. Are you going to have reserved parking for your establishment?
The owner of the building said that I would have 12 spaces reserved specifically for the daycare use, and then in addition to that, there's ample open parking that would be first come, first serve in terms of the tenants of the building.
Is there other questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Rivera.
Okay, thank you.
This is a public hearing, so I would invite at this time anyone who is in favor of this proposal, this project, to approach the podium, state your name and address, address your comments to the board. Anyone in favor? Okay, seeing none, I would ask anyone that is opposed to this project to, again, do the same, approach the podium, state your name and address, address your comments to the board. Anyone opposed? Good evening.
Good evening, board members. My name is June O'Connell. My address is 102 East Rutland Road in Milford. And I don't know if you're aware that 0 Wheelers Farms Road and 440 Wheelers Farms Road were one parcel. It was subdivided several years back. This land was used as an illegal auto salvage yard in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Testing was never done for PCBs, lead, and asbestos, only pesticides. When 0 Wheelers Farms Road came before the board seeking approval for an 830G, this was all brought to light. They didn't want to do phase 2 testing, which the residents felt needed to be done. Their claim was, and still is, that any possibly contaminated soil was pushed up and used when they built the office building at 440 Wheelers Farms Road. On the July 7th, 2015 Planning and Zoning hearing, Mr. Jim Kish, he questioned Mr. Tim Hollister about the need for the deep soil testing. And if you want, you can hear it on the MGAT, the site that records the hearings. 1 hour and 31 minutes in, Mr. Hollister's own words stating just that the soil that was possibly contaminated was pushed forward and used when they built the office building at 440. So the people that are working in that building are probably not aware that it was built on possibly contaminated soil. I feel that without doing phase 2 deep soil testing, it would be wrong to bring children here. Who knows what health problems they could develop years down the line. I know I wouldn't want my child somewhere I was not 100% absolutely certain was safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, are there any questions? Am I supposed to ask if there's any questions?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak against this project? Good evening.
My name is Michael O'Connell, and I live at 102 East Rutland Road in Milford. And many of you members were on the board when the Wheelers Woods situation happened on 0 Wheelers Farms Road. One of the main concerns for safety and welfare of that property was pesticides and contaminants from old cars being on the lot, which was a salvage yard at one point. It was one of the reasons that the board denied Wheelers Woods, and it went to court in Hartford, and the judge overturned it like they normally do, without requiring any further testing. My main concern, as my wife just said, is that we are now talking about not putting adults in this building, but children, because they have no say in what's going to happen here. And it is very, very possible that this soil is contaminated, and without doing deep soil testing, phase 2 testing, we will never know, all right? The state kind of looked the other way on this issue because they could, but we cannot let that happen. I would encourage you to deny this. I am not against the daycare center whatsoever. I am against putting it on this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against this project? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Rivera, you have an opportunity if you'd like to address any of the comments that were made.
I would just say that I would hope, I mean, I'm licensed by the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health. We have to have our water tested. We have to have radon testing. Of course, we're not talking about deep soil testing. I would hope that if this board or a previous board approved this building to be built there, that they felt it was a safe environment for children. And so I would leave it in the board's hands that, again, this building is there, there's occupants in this building. Of course, I don't want to endanger any children, but I would assume that the board would not approve to put a building there that would harm anybody in that building. And so that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, anyone who has made a comment from the public has an opportunity to respond to the comments that were made by Ms. Rivera, but we'd want to keep it to only that. So is there anyone that would like to speak? Sir.
My name is Michael O'Connell once again, and my only comment to her rebuttal is that when this building was built in 1986, 1984, I forget what year it was built, nobody knew at that time what the property contained. Nobody questioned it, and nobody did anything about it because nobody knew. All right. We all know, a majority of the members on this board do, there were people that live in that area, that border that property, told this board straight out that there were vehicles, dozens if not hundreds, on that property. And as my wife said, Attorney Hollister, who represented the Wheelers Woods Association, said himself that all that soil that was in the back of that property was dug up and moved to the front of that property, which was used for fill around the current building. All right. You cannot possibly think of putting anybody's life in jeopardy without knowing for sure what's going on that property. It's always been a question from day one. As I said, you know, there are people in that building right now that probably don't know they could possibly be sitting on contaminated soil. They don't know. This went on in New Haven, a place called the New Wall Project. People lived there for 40 or 50 years on a contaminated site and had no idea. All right, we can't let that happen here, all right? There are people already in that building. In the last 30 years, could be thousands of people that have been in that building, and who knows, you know, what health effects this could have on these people. We don't know. The only way we're going to find out is to do deep soil testing on this property. And like I said, if it was your children, think about it. I wouldn't take a chance with my child. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other one that would like to comment? Seeing none, Mr. Rivera, you do have your last opportunity if you would like to address anything else.
I would just ask for your approval tonight, knowing that I have to be licensed by, again, I have to go through certain hoops, and you know, they would come out and require me to test whatever I needed to, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board before we close the public hearing for either Ms. Rivera or Mr. Sulkus? Mr. Barone.
Were you aware of the possible contamination when?
Absolutely not.
You were not?
Absolutely not.
And what is your feeling about that now that you find this out?
I mean, I'm definitely going to talk to the landlord of the building. However, you know, using words like possibilities and things like that, I mean, I would want a more definitive kind of, you know, reason for doing this than hearing. This is brand new to my ears, so I would want to find out about it, absolutely. But I don't know, one person's saying possibility, I don't know what that really means. I would have to look into that.
Are there other questions? Yes.
This is an internal question for us. I'm not even sure if we have authority in this area. Do we have authority over health issues?
You do not have authority over environmental health issues. There's nothing in our regulations that talks about whether land is contaminated or not contaminated. It's all about the use as described by our regulations.
Yeah, the only other question was, for this kind of a use, does this applicant need approval from the health department?
You can ask the applicant, but I believe that's part of her licensing.
I not only need approval from the local health department, but the state health department, Office of Early Childhood.
Right. I understand the comments from the people that are concerned about this, but I just think we're the wrong agency. I don't feel we're at all qualified to be dealing in this area.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Mr. Quish.
Yeah, not a question, a comment. This is my profession, so my concern basically was that potential contaminants would be disturbed during the construction. And that was really where I felt the biggest concern is. And this building is already constructed. If there was contaminants there, they're encased in the hard surfaces. And it's inside the building that the children will spend most of their time. The outside playscape will have new mulch or whatever the surface is, it's shown on the drawing. And if there was like primarily your concern would be lead with children under 6, the solution to any kind of surface contamination as mandated by the state would be to put a mulch over it. So, for your peace of mind, you might have the landlord or have you test the soil for lead and make sure that if there is any lead that it's covered, and you're going to cover it anyway. So again, to reiterate, the 830G application, my concern was that anything in that soil during the construction would be brought up and brought into the air or brought into the to the construction workers' potential health risks there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Rivera. We'll close the public hearing part of this, public comment part of this hearing, and I would entertain a motion from the board. Yes, Mr. Sutton.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the petition as presented.
Is there a second? Yes, numerous seconds on that. There is a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, on to our next item is liaison reports. Is there any liaison reports this meeting? Okay. Regulation Subcommittee, Mr. Grant?
None at this time.
Okay, I asked for an approval of the minutes of the 4/4/2017 and 4/18/2017 meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
I move to approve.
Second, Mr. Brown. All in favor? Under the chair's report, I do have a letter here that I will read, and I don't want to, but I will. And it's from Ms. Leggett, and I'll just read the letter. It says, it is with very mixed emotions I'm writing to inform you that May 16th will be the last meeting at which I will be acting in my capacity as clerk to the Planning and Zoning Board. I will be resigning from my position as administrative assistant to the Planning and Zoning and Permitting and Land Use Departments on June 2nd, 2017. It has been my honor and pleasure to have had the opportunity to work with the Planning and Zoning Board for more than 11 years. This commission is an outstanding example of dedication to the City of Milford and its residents, and I'm proud to have been a small part of it. And it's signed Ms. Phyllis Leggett. So, again, don't want to read that, but we do appreciate all that you've done for this board. I think you keep us under control. So, staff report, Mr. Sulkus.
None this evening.
Okay, look for a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? All right. Opposed? No one's opposed.
And I hope to work part-time.